Welcome everyone to the Unboxing Careers Podcast. I'm your host, Greg Zakowicz. Have you ever wondered what it's like to be a tattoo artist? You're about to find out. But before we do, be sure to like, rate, review, and share the podcast. And remember, the next time you need the gift, visit thoughtfulcollection.com, your one-stop shop. Thoughtful gifts that show you care. It's thoughtfulcollection.com. All right, I'd like to welcome to the show Kimberly Parton, tattoo artist and owner of Golden Falcon Tattoos. Kimberly, welcome to the podcast. Thank you for being here.
It's good to be here.
All right, let's start with this. I normally say current role and experience, but talk to us a little bit about how long you've been a shop owner for, how long you've been doing tattoos for, and kind of walk us through just level setting, if you will.
Okay. Well, I've owned my shop for about 7 years, a little bit over. It'll be 8 years in February. The shop, like you said, is called Golden Falcon Tattoo and Piercing, and we're in Chapel Hill, North Carolina. I've been tattooing for about 16 years, including my apprenticeship, which was about 2.5 years long. Before the shop was opened, I traveled all around the U.S. between my home city and now, and I ended up here because I really like it. And I've just done pretty much everything in between. Like I said, my apprenticeship was about 2.5 years long, which is a pretty standard apprenticeship time. I do a little bit of every style. My mentor taught me that it's good to be multi-talented as far as artwork goes. That way you can pay the bills no matter what. And being a shop owner, I have found that that's very convenient and it's very helpful because I do whatever the other artists don't want to / can't do at the time. And I just handle whatever needs to be done at the shop. I also pierce, so that's another thing.
All right. So how'd you decide on this as a career? So I know multiple tattoo artists and they usually have some sort of story, right? It's either someone's uncle that had a bunch of tattoos that they just gravitated toward. Some are just creatives and it was just a different medium for them. What about your childhood? Like, when did you decide you want to do this? Was there something in your childhood that kind of resonated with tattoos for you, or is it just a medium?
More of a medium for me. Actually, I grew up in a pretty much non-tattooed family. My mom had one on her lower back, and I think my uncle had one. But I'm from a factory-bred family in the Midwest. Everybody did manual labor jobs. They were in construction, and they worked in, like I said, the factories, the car industry mostly. And that's just a path I never wanted for myself. I didn't want to have that 9 to 5 waiting for retirement for 60 years. I always was an artist since as far as I could walk. I've always been drawing pictures and painting and playing with whatever kind of art medium that I could find. I remember at one point in time, I wanted to be a wedding dress designer. At another point in time, I wanted to do fine art. In high school, I was in a career technical graphic design program. So I've just been all over the board. And as far as tattooing went, I always thought they were cool. Like I used to draw all the way up my arm when I was in high school while I was paying attention in class because I'm a little bit ADHD, so I needed to slow my brain down a bit. But I always thought that'd be really interesting to do as a hobby. And I got into a little bit of trouble in high school and ended up, like most tattoo artists, I ended up in jail for a brief period. Not all of us. Some of us are not hoodlums at all, but, and I really wasn't until I just fell in with a bad crowd and I ended up there for that reason. But that's a story for another podcast. Anyway, when I got out of jail, I had the opportunity to become an apprentice, whether it be piercings or tattoos. There was a shop in my town looking for it. And I ripped all my artwork down off the walls. I called the shop and asked when I could come in. They said, just bring whatever you have as soon as possible. And I was there in 10 minutes. And I ended up getting the apprenticeship, not necessarily because of my skills, because nothing I did was tattoo related. But because of my initiative and the fact that I got there so fast, they knew that I would be dedicated to what I was doing. And they gave me the job on a chance. They also knew about my record and they figured they would help me out, which a lot of shops do for people. Because once you have a record, as most people know, it's very hard to get a job. So they wanted to take me under their wing, seeing that I was a innocent looking blonde haired girl back at that point in time. And it wasn't very long before I realized tattooing is not a hobby, not even close, not even a little bit. It is a 24/7, 7-day a week, like entire life choice career. And I fell in love with that. So that's how it all started. And I've been doing it ever since.
So, two questions. I want to get into the apprenticeship
Mm-hmm.
here and typical career paths, but you mentioned it's a 24/7 job. Why is that? Right? Because you have shop hours and stuff like that, and you're not thinking that, it's 24/7. Why? So, why do you say that?
Well, what is a tattoo? It's a piece of artwork for a client. So we're doing the artwork on the client during shop hours, but when do you design the artwork? At
Yep.
home. How do you design the artwork? A lot of research into the subjects and the styles that the client wants. How do you figure that out? You have to have talks with the clients and spend time figuring out who they are and what they want. And all of that, plus buying supplies, ordering, becoming your own boss, managing your own schedule, going out and, like I said, buying supplies and doing things like that, it takes up pretty much all of your time. So it's not just done when you leave the shop. There's like you tattoo for 9 hours and then you have to go home and draw for 8 hours because then you have to tattoo again for 9 hours, and it just goes on and on.
Awesome. Thanks for the feedback or the perspective there. I think it's something that is important for people to know, right? 9 to 5, a lot of times you can check out. There's other jobs that you can't really do that.
Mm-hmm.
So good. Apprenticeship, you said you just happen to see a sign. Is that pretty typical for either a sign, or do you just have to go bang on doors to find an apprenticeship? Because I talked to other people and some are like, yeah, it's kind of hard to find some like the people suck, right? So, what's the typical way for someone to get the foot in the door, kind of like you did? Is it just grunt work and go in and look for opportunities, or are there more defined paths now versus, you said been doing this for a while versus when you got into it?
Honestly, I will start by saying that the way I got an apprenticeship is not typical at all. I wouldn't have hired me. Like, it's definitely not the way to get into it, being that I am from a family that knew nothing about tattoos. I didn't really study what it meant to be a tattoo artist beforehand. And I honestly just got lucky. I got very lucky and found a shop that really needed somebody like me who wanted to really put in the work. But beyond that, I kept the apprenticeship because I was willing to really do the grunt work. Like, I was cleaning, I was managing, I was scrubbing, I was helping each artist and the piercers make sure their setups were clean and ready, and managing clients. I was pretty much, they called me the ideal apprentice at that time. And that's what it takes. Like, a lot of people now, they think it's hard to find an apprenticeship because they're not willing to do that extra work, that grunt work, so to speak, that makes the apprenticeship worth it for the tattooer. And the ways, well, I'll break that down. So first, we'll start by getting an apprenticeship. Yes, the grunt work, going door to door, trying to show your art to artists is the best way to do it. Some artists will advertise that they have an apprenticeship available, but not many do. And honestly, now it's harder to get an apprenticeship than ever because there are just so many tattooers out there. And also because we've been, I say we, not everybody, but we in the industry keep getting burned by new apprentices. There are a lot of people who come in with this, I don't want to say it like this, but entitlement to the career, that they think they should just be able to go in and learn and leave. But what does that give the tattooer who's spending time making your lesson plans and taking time out of their payday to teach you and make sure that you're doing things right and managing you just as much as you're managing them? It's a very big give and take. So a lot of people nowadays don't want to give, they just want to take. And that makes it even harder, which makes us jaded. It makes it really hard to want an apprentice. After, personally, I've had 4 or 5 apprentices. I haven't passed any of them because it's just been a struggle for different reasons, whether it's on them or on me. It's not always their fault, but it's just a lot of work on both ends. And a lot of times it doesn't work out, and it just makes it really hard for us to want to keep taking apprentices. But if you really want an apprenticeship, you will go to a shop that you respect, that you get tattooed at is the easiest way, and keep showing up for them. Show them you want to be there. Help them when you're not working for them, and they'll be more likely to give you an apprenticeship later.
Is the common path, so I come into your shop, I go through the become an apprentice, I successfully graduate. Is the general rule that when you clear that bar that you are then hired in that shop, or is that just kind of a misconception where uh, maybe you just need the apprenticeship and then they tend to go elsewhere? What's the most common path for that person?
Well, ideally, you get an apprenticeship at a shop that wants to hire you.
Okay.
That's part of us putting in the work to teach you and to
Yeah.
train you is for you to work for us later. However, a lot of times that doesn't end up happening. And a shop that tells you you have to work for them afterwards is not really a shop. Like paperwork wise, if they say you have a contract to work here for so many years, that's not really a shop you want to be at. We do want you to work for us, but no business owns you. So if you have a bad experience, like I said, I've never passed an apprentice. I have two apprentices who ended up going to different shops and finishing their apprenticeships because the artist apprentice dynamic is so tied together and so difficult that sometimes halfway through the apprenticeship things just don't end up working, like you don't vibe anymore, and it's completely okay for you to go, this isn't a good space for me anymore. It's not a thing against the artist that was teaching you or against the apprentice that was learning. Just sometimes because you're so tied personality wise, you're spending so much time together that eventually you just start butting heads, and at that point it's not productive anymore. And then if that happens, it's not a problem to go somewhere else. And in fact, that's what happened to me in my apprenticeship is I left because I was butting heads with my mentor. And I came back to tattooing a couple of years later and found a different shop to work at. And that's pretty frequent. We don't want that to happen. We want to be everything for the person that we're teaching. So ideally, like I said, you would come work for us in the end, but we're not your slave drivers. Like if you're learning and it doesn't work out, then yeah, it's okay to go somewhere else, but don't be afraid to do that. But if it works out, that's the idea. We want you to work for us.
Makes sense. Thank you. So most, not all, but most of the careers we've touched on so far in this podcast is the traditional like college to career type model,
Mm-hmm.
right? So, but you have your exceptions. I want to get in more of these where you don't necessarily need the education to do. Sometimes the education can help bolster certain skills. I could think of creative and art and design being one of those things, but uh, you don't need to go to college. You don't need a secondary education for things like that. Does going to any, whether it's a community college, whether it's just one-off art classes, do those things help in this industry, or is it really just, hey, you've just got to be good at art, you've got to apply your skill, you've got to apply your creative passion, and just get better over time? Or do some of those classes, would they be helpful for more people to come in and be like, hey, I want to do an apprenticeship, by the way, I've also got this, or I'm taking this class to refine this. Can you walk us through kind of the need versus benefit versus want between those two?
I think higher education in any aspect is always a good thing. I went to college after my apprenticeship before I actually started tattooing. I didn't go to graduate. I went to take classes that would better me as an artist. So I definitely can see the benefit of that personally as an artist. I went to a what they call scam college myself, but I did take the classes I wanted anyway and got what I wanted out of it and left.
Perfect.
But honestly, if you want to go get higher education, my recommendation would be business classes, number one, because no matter what shop you work at, you are an independent contractor. And being an independent contractor means that you will be responsible for yourself, AKA your business. And to have a base knowledge of that, including how to save, how to invest, how to do all that, is just going to help your career later more than anything else will. But also, graphic design, if you're going art wise, would be the best type of classes to take as a tattoo artist, because we're not artists for ourselves. We're not like making a master painting and then putting it up for an auction. You're literally talking to a client about a style of artwork that they want in the way that they want it done. So it's an art for other people. And I think that graphic design is the closest thing to that you can get. It's never bad to take fine art classes too, but I think as far as helping in the tattoo industry goes, my graphic design classes help me more than anything else.
Perfect. I want to talk a little bit now about your actual day to day. So this is going to vary a little bit because you are a shop owner, so you have business responsibilities and things like this. You alluded to some of that before. You pick up work that someone else doesn't want to do, keep the business going. So feel free to incorporate any sort of, as a shop owner, any sort of that stuff into it. But what if you're if you're a tattoo artist, what's a typical week look like for you, or a typical day? How many hours you tattoo, and how much like break do you have between those? Independent contractor, I'm assuming you can set your own schedule, but walk us through what real life world looks like for a tattoo artist.
What's funny, I've worked at all different kinds of shops, so I can say that there's not one typical way day to day that a tattoo artist works, but I can go through a few different ones.
That'd be perfect.
So if you're working at a street shop, which means you're taking a bunch of walk-ins every day, you don't have as much art prep to do at night, but you do have to maintain that you keep your art skills up to date. So you're more drawing for yourself or painting flash or doing stuff that will entice people to come to the shop every day for smaller tattoos. So that'd be, I'll start, I guess, at night would be the start of your day, would be the end of the night. So you're painting flash before you go to bed. You wake up, you try to get up as early as you can because you've been staying up as late as you can to paint and draw and do what you need to do. And you get ready and you pretty much go immediately to work. You work anywhere from 8 to 12 hours. You go home, eat at the end of your day, as starving as you are because you haven't had time to eat all day. And then you do the same thing again with a little bit of hygiene between. As well as on your days off, that's when you're going to manage buying your supplies and taking care of yourself as far as your day-to-day chores at home. In a regular, less quick shop, less street shop where you have a bunch of appointments, you start your day off getting ready for your day. So you're getting whatever supplies you need. These days being an iPad or a laptop. Back in my day, all the tracing paper, pencils, and anything else that you needed for the day, Sharpies to draw on your client. You go to the shop, you start by cleaning your booth, which is in the other shop too. You're always starting your day by cleaning, making sure everything's sanitary. You start talking with your client when they get there. You get their art ready, whether it's on an iPad or paper. You make your stencil from there, whether it's by hand or with a stencil machine. You put it on the client and you start tattooing. You're going to tattoo anywhere between 1 and 10 people a day, depending on the size of the tattoo and the quickness of the shop. You once again try to eat when you can eat. Most of us don't. That's why a lot of us are thin as rails or just entirely unhealthy from fast food. Um, it's you really. It sounds like I'm exaggerating, but that's the lifestyle. When you're done with your day, whether it's 1 to 10 clients of doing all that, you clean again because you want to make sure everything's sanitary, as well as between, of course, appointments. You go home and you try to work on your drawings for the next day while you try to relax, and you go to sleep and you do it all again. And same thing, you take your days off and do all your chores. In a shop like mine, where right now everybody is on their own schedule, and those two shops, you have hours. So you do have to be there certain times. My shop, everybody is there on their own schedule. I have no like strict, you have to be here from this hour to this hour. Even the sign on the door says business hours may vary. But in my shop, you are starting your day hopefully with a nice cup of coffee while you're relaxing before you go to the shop for your appointments. We all usually take 1 to 3 appointments a day. We try not to overbook ourselves because everybody at my shop's been tattooing for 10 plus years and we just don't want to do that anymore. We talk to our 1 or 3 clients and go through our drawings and get everything ready, the same as the other shops. And once again, eat when you can. And then you go home and draw. And that's pretty much the day to day.
So you've mentioned you've worked in multiple types of shops, and I want to go to the street shops there. So is there, I don't know the right way to ask this, but right. So less artistic might not be the word, right? It's more, I say churn and burn, but it's like you said, it's more quick type stuff. It's typically less intricate, right? You're not doing appointments and stuff like that all the time. Is there a reason why someone would choose that route versus going to kind of a more, I don't know, less street shop, right? So what are the, I guess, pros and cons, benefits to one versus the other? Could you walk us through just at a high level what that might be?
Community culture is a big one. So, like street shops, Philadelphia's where Philly, New Orleans, and Gatlinburg, Tennessee. All those shops where I was were street shops, and that's because of the type of people in those towns.
Okay.
So generally, unless you've been established for years and years and you're newer to the areas or newer to tattooing, you want to be in a street shop because that's where you're going to get more clients, more money, more ability to just sustain your lifestyle. Those shops, the benefit would be that you're doing littler tattoos all day for the most part. You do take appointments sometimes, but generally it's, like you said, more of a churn and burn. But they're more flash-based tattoos, whether it's like lettering or flash on the wall, which is what I was talking about, painting flash when you're in a street shop at night, so that you do get to do more artistic things rather than just the stuff that people bring in. Because if you have flash ready, people will be more likely to choose it because those shops, most people are just like, I want to get a tattoo today. And they don't really have much in mind, or they have this little tiny meaningful thing that they want done and they want to get it done fast. That's a good, like I said, that's a good way to make a bunch of money and to get a lot of experience when you're newer in the industry if you don't have a lot of clientele. From these street shops, you gain clientele. Once you've gained that clientele, typically people move on from a street shop to a more appointment-based studio in those bigger cities. Here, the culture is a little bit different. We don't have as much street shop type culture in Chapel Hill. So generally, a lot of people want bigger tattoos, more meaningful tattoos. So it's a lot easier to maintain that appointment-based setting. But also post-corona, most people are appointment only now for anything. But for an appointment-based shop, when you're new to the industry, it's not necessarily the best place to be because you have to do a lot of self-promotion to get your appointments out. My studio, we have a large clientele for the studio in general, so we do have walk-ins. But even that, if you're just new to the industry and you don't have any clients at all, it's not going to be the place for you. You definitely want to start somewhere where you can build a trusted clientele. And that's basically a big difference.
That's a great breakdown. I love the fact that like you can think of yourself as like a stockbroker or you talked about business skills before, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're building a book of business is what you're doing, right? And then you're trying to sustain with that book of business. So I love the kind of tie in there. When you were mentioned the street shop, my immediate thought was there's one on South Street. It might be like 4th and South, right across from a bar. And I've been in that bar before having drinks and people be like, hey, you want to go over there and get a tattoo? Right. So they just literally walk across the street. And that's immediately what I was
Was it
thinking
called
of.
Body
So
Graphics?
I think so, yeah.
I worked there.
I think it was 4th and South. It might be 6th and South. But that's so funny.
Yeah, 4th and South, and then actually Body Graphics has 3 locations. There's one on 4th and South, one further down south, and then across the street, Noka Oi is also on 4th and South, basically, and we're the same owner at the time. But
okay.
I worked there.
Okay, there you go. We'll talk offline about this.
Yeah,
I'm headed up there tomorrow, so perfect. What do you like most about like your day to day on that? Because it sounds like a typically grinding schedule, right? Between diet, between lifestyle, between always being on. What do you like most about your day to day?
Being independent. I am my own business, so even if I wasn't the shop owner, you're your own business as a tattooer, and you're not always, but you're mostly your own boss. So you're pretty much just maintaining your own lifestyle. There's no obligations to look a certain way, to act a certain way. You bring your entire personality to the table, and that's part of your brand. And that's one of the things that's really awesome about being a tattooer. Also, if you're lost in life, when I started tattooing, I was definitely lost in life. It can save your life. It literally can take you from nothing to something. It gives you a type of confidence that you can't get just by being yourself because you're literally gratifying people every day. So you're making people's literal dreams come true every single day. And that like amazing feeling that they give you from just being so happy. Or even like I do a charity thing myself because I like that gratification so much. And also I like helping people. where I cover gang tattoos and I cover like sex trafficking tattoos where people get branded with names or symbols for free. And that just emotional relief that the clients give me when I get that thing covered for them and it changes their life for the better, like that is the most amazing thing in the world for me.
That's phenomenal. Good for you. It's got to be great. What do you like least about it, the day to day?
Um, I didn't used to like anything least. I used to love it all, but now I have a fiance. I have 3 dogs. We're trying to have a kid. And the 24/7 lifestyle is just a little rough these days because I'm trying to also maintain a personal life. And having a personal life in the tattoo industry is actually very difficult. It is, it's more for people who really don't have much as far as that goes. To be super, super successful in it, you have to really give 100% of who you are to it. And I used to say the tattoo god, you had to feed the tattoo gods basically by giving them all you had. But as you develop life and become a real person later in life, in your 30s or whenever, it just gets a lot harder to maintain that. And beyond that, just the showy, like, I'm cooler than art thou thing that a lot of tattooers are. That in my 30s, I used to be one of those people. I won't disregard that. But now that I'm older and I'm sober and I have all of these things going for me, like in real life, that just kind of gets on my nerves now. It's just like, you're just a tattooer. Keep calm. You're just a tattooer.
Perfect. How about competition in the field? So is it a highly competitive field? Is it average competitive? Is it low competition? So if I'm an artist, I want to move from, say, one shop to another, or I want to move to a new city and hope to find this spot, like how likely am I to land somewhere in a relatively short time frame?
Um, yes and no on competitiveness because every artist is a different artist. We all do different styles. We're not the same people. So your style is going to be your brand and people are going to look for your brand is one thing. Moving to a new city is a little more difficult. Like moving within the city is not hard, or moving within the state because people will follow you. If you're moving to a new like state or somewhere further away where you don't have the same clientele anymore, it can be a little bit tricky, but you just kind of have to reset. That's when you go back to a street shop and you build your clientele, make sure that it's a good shop, and then you'll build back up again. So like, yes, it's competitive in the way that you have to build and maintain a clientele, but also no in the way that everybody gets tattooed these days. And as long as you're in a good place and you are a good person and you do good work, then you will build it again.
Perfect. How about salary expectations? And this might require two answers here. So I'm thinking there's probably a vast difference between street shops versus kind of building your own book of business and doing things like that. But what's a general, maybe starting salary type expectation versus more established in your career?
Well, if you are just starting to tattoo, do not expect to make $1 million. Like, it doesn't work like that. Our supplies cost a lot of money. We also, if you don't own a shop, you're paying a booth rent or a percentage, just like any other salon or cosmetologist, to the owner of the studio. So those two things combined take away a lot of your money. So it depends on how busy you are, and how willing you are to just keep working is going to depend on how much money you have. Also, how good you are is going to depend as well, because if you end up just like throwing tattoos out there that don't look great, the reputation gets around and you get less clients. But if you're a good tattooer, you can build reputation quickly and you can make money faster. But I want to emphasize that we charge as much as we do, and this is for people who aren't tattooers listening, because it's expensive to do our jobs. My studio, and I'll be transparent here, my studio processes about $180,000 a year. I claim $20,000 a year on taxes because of how much in expenses I'm paying. I might make a little more than that, but it's not too much more than that. It's definitely not as glamorous as it looks like. If you take business classes and you learn to save and invest, you can make a lot of money if you are smart with your money. If you're not smart with your money, then you will not have a lot of money, and that's just how it goes.
Perfect. You touched on some of these already, but I want to try to boil them down to a single place here. So essential skills outside of probably needing a steady hand,
Hmm.
but essential skills that would be, I'll say, kind of frame it two ways. One, things that you've got to have, and this could be personality traits as well. I'm assuming you're probably dealing with, I mean, you're dealing with the public, so you're dealing with people of all, I don't know,
Types.
types,
Yeah.
persona. I was trying to think of a nice way to say this, right? Temperaments, maybe is
Hmm.
the best way to
Yeah,
do it.
that's
So,
a good term.
uh, essential skills, right? So, what are some of those things? Hey, if you're going into this field, these are the things you either need to be really good at or you need to hone your craft on. And then just kind of personality traits. Probably less so to be expensive because people adapt, but maybe if you are this type of personality, you're not going to do well here. Maybe that's argumentative or whatever. But can you boil some of those key things down for us?
Well, honestly, art can be learned. So if you are determined and you have the ability to just push and learn and practice and have that, I'm trying to think of the word for it, discipline. If you have the discipline to learn and get it done, you will get better at art. Things you can't learn: patience, respect, and understanding, as well as having a backbone, which is a bunch of words, but very important things. Patience, because you're going to get clients who, because this is a permanent art on somebody's body, it is forever, who are very nitpicky about what they want or very indecisive. And you may have to change the design 50 times. You may have to move it 20 times on their body once you place a stencil here, there, this bit, that bit, that bit. And you may just have to deal with a lot of indecision in general when it comes to clients. Respect, because it's their body, it's not your body, and it doesn't matter who they are or what they want or what they do or what they relate to, their politics, their gender, any of that does not matter. It is not your business, and it is not up to you to decide what's right or wrong in that way. You are there to be a service person and help them get what they want as the tattoo, and not bring your own personal agenda in the situation. Like I say, patience, respect, understanding, because there are many different reasons people get tattooed. That little infinity symbol that you've done 500 times, that you are annoyed because you've done 500 times, might be a symbol their grandma carved in their post once and she's now dead. Like, it's not something for you to act like it's lesser than another tattoo. Sure, we all want to do the Tenya angel back piece holding a sword with the glow behind it, but that doesn't mean that that's a more important tattoo than that little tiny infinity symbol on somebody's hand, because that little tiny infinity symbol means more to them than it ever will to you. And then, what was the last one I said? Discipline, maybe? I'd have to go back. But those are basically the most. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say you did say discipline,
Yeah.
but you were talking about studying the craft. Yeah,
Patience, understanding, respect. I don't remember what the last one was, but I think I pretty much covered all of them in
there
the
you go.
explanations anyway.
Perfect. How about something that maybe surprised you going into the field? And you touched on some of this. So if the answer is just kind of what you already talked about, that's fine. We can just kind of
Mhm.
push it. Uh, but when people go into whatever field they go into, there's always something that like, hey, no one really ever told me about this, but it makes tons of sense. Is there something when you started working as an artist that kind of surprised you that no one really told you?
Um, I was pretty well prepared in my apprenticeship. I had a really old school apprenticeship, and they definitely beat a lot of things into you more than they do now, because we got hazed and all that stuff. But people are going to treat you lesser than, because you're a tattoo artist, and that's something that is hard to get used to, no matter how long you've been doing it. Because you probably, if you're a tattooer, have worked 2.5 to 3 years just learning how to do it, and then also practiced under an artist after that, and spent years and years and years honing your craft. But you're going to get someone in there that almost every week that goes, so what else do you do for a living? Or like, it's just a tattoo, it should only take you 5 minutes, or something like that. That basically degrades all the work you put into the job. and makes you feel like people don't respect you because of this industry, when this industry is people's whole lives. So that's something that you have to be prepared for that people don't talk about. Also, I emphasize the business aspect of tattooing and taking business classes. It's a cash business. So it's very hard to realize you have to save money. Every day you're going to be tempted with that, oh, I'll make more cash tomorrow temptation. So you're going to be tempted to spend money you don't actually have without budgeting. And that's something that also is very hard if you don't pay attention to. And most people during their apprenticeships don't get taught that. Is like, yes, it's a cash industry. You will make more money tomorrow, but that $100 you spent today and that $100 you spend tomorrow and all that is going to make it real hard to pay your bills at the end of the month. So just be very mindful about stuff like that.
Awesome. How nervous were you the first time you had to actually put ink on someone?
My hand was like this.
So,
and
I'm assuming that's pretty common, right? It's
yeah,
like the first time someone does surgery. There's got to be a first.
Eyebrow sweat. The whole, like, your eyelids are sweating, your whole body is sweating. You're just like panicking. A lot of people don't make it through that in their apprenticeships. I actually, at the shop I was hired, there was another girl that was hired before me. She wasn't there when I started, but she was so good at her apprenticeship, got all the way to the point where she was about to tattoo somebody and then could not actually tattoo them. She like panicked, she freaked out, and she ran out of the shop. And then she just never came back because she couldn't do it. It is something, it's permanent. It's on somebody's body forever. Yeah. So you're literally affecting them as much as the surgery. Because if you screw it up, there's a very visible representation of your mess up. You can't fix it unless they cover it later with something else or use laser. Sorry about
Perfect.
that.
Oh, no problem. So we're starting to wrap up here anyways. Are there any like go-to educational resources that you reference or that you go to either get, inspiration for different types of artwork or maybe Instagram handles that you follow for certain things, or is it just kind of find what you like and plug away?
There's a lot there nowadays compared to when I was growing up. When I was growing up in the industry, you had to go to the library. You had to, there was Instagram, but it was very new. So you only knew who you knew. You just had to like look at books and all that. But nowadays there's Google, there's Instagram, there's AI images now that people use, which I only recommend for realism. But there's just so many ways to get reference material now that it's actually overwhelming. I do follow 2,000 people on Instagram, and there's so many different styles that I follow. But also, Instagram isn't the best way anymore because their algorithm is so messed up that you literally have to do a deep dive to find anything you're looking for, because they just want to see those people dancing on Instagram now, or like people's faces. So unless you know what you're looking for specifically, that's not the place anymore. I just say go Google tattoos, go to like different convention sites and look at different tattooers if you're trying to find a style you like, or just books. I still like books.
It's a lost medium.
Yeah,
books,
very
but
much so.
it's out there. All right, Kimberly, what did I neglect to ask you today that maybe you feel is important that the audience should absolutely know if this is a career they're considering?
I think I pretty much covered it when I said it's a lifestyle, it's hard work, and you really have to respect the industry. If you're trying to do tattooing as a career, don't be afraid of the grunt work. Like, that's the most important thing I can say. So many people these days are like, why am I doing free labor for you? I hear it over and over and over again. Just remember, it's not free labor. You are trading for the knowledge that the tattooer is giving you. And that is what it is. It's not free, it's a trade. And thinking that it's free labor is basically saying that you deserve our knowledge for free that we have spent years cultivating. And that's just not fair to tattooers anywhere. It's just not respectable. And that's why people don't want to hire you.
All right, perfect. Last question for you. If someone, this has nothing to do with the actual career itself, but if someone is considering getting their first tattoo, what's the best way for them to approach a tattoo artist? So I walk into a shop. Are there specific questions I should be asking? Should I come in with a design? Are there certain approaches to do that? Like, what's the best way for someone who's going into a shop for the first time?
Honestly, start on Google. Find the best shop that you can. Look at portfolios, look at Google reviews, look at references. Ask people around you, but don't trust just word of mouth because people are biased. They like who they like, and it might not be who you like. Once you do find a shop, then message them. You can go in directly, but post-corona, people are a little bit harder about that unless it's a street shop. It is a lot easier for us to talk to you if you message first or call first. Then we can get you in when we know we're getting you in. Keeping in mind that if it's a small studio like mine, we're probably already tattooing somebody throughout the day, so it's really hard to get a really good conversation. Our shop, personally, we do consultation days where we just talk to people so that we can give you our undivided attention. But there are other shops, if you message them, they'll set up a consultation for you so you can talk about it. If you know what you want, send that in the message and they may just schedule you an appointment as long as you trust the artist. Don't just go to a shop because they're available and they're the ones that are free that day, because sometimes you'll get a bad tattoo and you don't want that.
Are there red flags to look for in a shop?
Yes. Reviews. I say
Reviews.
trust Google reviews. That's the easiest way to go. There's a lot of, like, once you get to a shop, if it's dirty, you don't want to be there. If they're like smoking inside or any of the obvious things that people don't think about. I know a lot of people smoke weed. I used to smoke a lot of weed, but if the shop smells like weed, probably not the best place to be. You, depending on the art and who you are, if you're a weed smoker, whatever, if the art's cool and the people are cool, that's fine. But generally, most professional studios they won't do that in the studio. So that's something that you want to keep in mind. Make sure your artists aren't on drugs. There are a lot of them. Not all of us. Most of us are not. But those are all things to actually look for, because this is an independent contractor industry. You want to be very vigilant about who you're getting tattooed by. And just take a vibe check. If you and the artist mesh and you like their attitude and they like yours, they're going to get a much better tattoo. If you feel like they're a little bit rude, or you don't like their jokes, or you don't like their personality, or they make you feel uncomfortable, don't go there. They may be good for other people, but they may not be good for you. Tattooing is very personal, so make sure you have a personal connection to who's tattooing you.
Excellent advice. Love it. Kimberly, we'll link everything in the show description on the website as well for the episode. But if someone wants to reach out, find your studio, what's the best way for them to get a hold of you or the studio?
We have a website, goldenfalcontattoo.com. You can fill out a consultation form directly on our website. We also have Instagrams. All the links are on the website. We have a shop phone number with texting capabilities. You can always text us. If you call, we're a very small studio and we do not have counter help, so we might not answer. But texting and messaging and email is the easiest way.
Awesome. Kimberly Parton, everyone, tattoo artist, owner of Golden Falcon Tattoo. Hope everyone enjoyed the episode today. To explore other careers or share yours with us, check out our website. Until next time, be good, do good. God bless. Go Bills. I'm